Trading news. Everybody's looking at the Bitcoin price, of course. Here we have around April 15th this year, there was a so-called China FUD where the Chinese government supposedly set a deadline and the price crashed down to a day close of around 363 at Bitstamp. And right now we have broken through that price point. Yesterday, it already broke through it slightly lower at a close of $359. And right now it's all the way down to $322. So let's see how far down it goes. In other trading news, the price of Peercoin has gone down. Here you can see in August during the alt apocalypse where Litecoin crashed and also a lot of other altcoins crashed during the summer. And then Peercoin went along and was pretty flat, as were a lot of other altcoins. And around this time, there were a lot of rumors about NewBits, about what is NewBits and the relationship to Peercoin, etc. And yeah, one day these rumors turned into a hot rumor, and the price spiked up all the way to $2 at one point. And guess what happened on the news? The dump. Here is the day when NewBits was released. Went from 164 to 120, and at some parts of the day all the way down to $1.03. And then there was a buyback, and eventually the price just went down. And today, at the making of this video, we're all the way at 78 cents. Same thing with the Peercoin Bitcoin market. You've got a similar story. Now we've got the top 10 by volume at the time this video was created. Bitcoin US dollar at Bitfinex. Bitcoin yuan, BTC China. Litecoin US dollar at OKCoin. Bitcoin euro at Kraken. Litecoin BTC at BTCE. Litecoin yuan, BTC 38. Doge Bitcoin at Cryptsy. NewBits Peercoin at CCEDK. And BitShares X and yuan over at BTC 38. And those are the top 10 by volume right now.
All right, today we're with Benjamin from the Dogecoin community. Hi, Benjamin.
Hi there.
Great, and we're going to talk about Dogeparty, of course. So Dogeparty is one of my favorite new projects. I think it has a lot of potential, and it's pretty interesting. For people that don't know what Dogeparty is, Benjamin, could you just tell us what is Dogeparty?
Sure. So Dogeparty is a platform for creating assets and tokens that use Dogecoin for its security, speed, and community. It allows you to create new tokens like Firefly and send them to whoever you want to in exchange for whatever you want. So, we're still sort of exploring what Dogeparty is going to be, but there's a lot of potential there. And, sorry.
Okay, so you can make tokens. Is it similar to Counterparty?
Yeah, so Dogeparty is a fork of Counterparty, and it's designed to use Dogecoin instead of Bitcoin as the underlying system. It shares a lot of the same code, the same history and technology, but because we're sort of pushing the limits on what Counterparty was designed to do as far as how many users and transactions it can support, we actually have interesting teething issues that Counterparty hasn't encountered yet.
Okay, so you've already had a lot more transactions and a lot more assets created than were created on the Counterparty platform. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. So in some aspects, we're actually more popular than Counterparty is today. As far as number of projects that are utilizing Dogeparty as a platform and as a basis for what they're doing, at this point, Counterparty actually has more. But just in terms of raw users, we're actually more popular.
Okay, yeah. So I've noticed if I log into my wallet, there are usually a few people in the chat room asking questions, and I've seen a lot of assets go around. A lot of people have been giving them away, etc. And since there's no decentral exchange isn't activated yet, there's been a lot of giving. I've gotten some pretty funny ones like free for all, coinage. I've got some Xdoge or whatever, and I don't know. I've got several different assets that I've gotten from people. So anyway, I just wanted to say, yeah, you're right. It's really active, I think. If I compare it to Counterparty, there also are people in the chat room over at Counterparty, but maybe because it costs a lot more to make an asset, there are less assets created. Or it could also be the speed. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think is the main factor that has created this kind of all this activity, even though there's no exchange and the whole project has started, but it still has a ways to go before it's fully in go mode for having all the features that Counterparty has?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it just has to do with like the momentum of the Dogecoin community itself. There's a lot of excitement that the Dogecoin community has about new things. I think barrier to entry is certainly one of the driving factors. Being that it's much cheaper to create assets and being that it's pretty much frictionless to send them to whoever you want to, I think that's spurred on a lot of like the joke coins that people have created. Personally, I think I've received 100,000 get off my lawn, and a number of other tokens that I'm sure were jokes. I think there's been a lot of organs being sent around and a lot of STIs. Just some very silly tokens that people are playing with. And I don't actually really know what to think of that, but I think it's encouraging to see that people are being creative with the system and coming up with ways to use it. And I think just the general excitement of being part of the Dogecoin community is a really big driver behind that. I think, they're excited to see what can happen. They're excited to kind of get in and play with the wallet and play with what they can do with it. That being said, I think there's a lot of potential that we're not seeing yet, as far as things that people are actually building on top of Dogeparty. I think a lot of that stuff has just started over at Counterparty. I'm hoping that we'll see it here a lot sooner than Counterparty saw it.
Okay, so let's backtrack a little. At the moment, how much does it cost to make an asset? I forgot how much it costs to make one at Counterparty. I should have looked it up. But I think it costs, if you were to exchange the Bitcoin value into US dollars, let's say it costs around $5 to make an asset on Counterparty, I think. And how much does it cost to make one on Dogeparty?
Yeah, so on Counterparty, I believe it's 0.5 XCP, and on Dogeparty, it's 0.5 XDP, which is our version of XCP. I think it would work out to it would be in the range of like between 5 and 50 cents. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it is significantly lower.
I think you're right. I think it's like 10 cents or 20 cents to make an asset on Dogecoin. So that basically means, for people that aren't familiar with all these tokens and all this asset talk, an asset is another name for a token on these systems. Some people have a big problem with the name asset, but yeah, that just depends on your definition. Let's not get, I don't think we should get too hung up on that, but it's basically a meta coin. It's also another good name. It's a coin on top of the Dogecoin blockchain. In Counterparty, it's on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. So I can make, I already have Theocoin, and I also have a Sound Wallet coin, and I've got a bunch of other ones too. But it was really easy to make, and like you said, it only cost 10 cents. And that could be one reason why there are so many of the joke ones. Probably is one reason. Also, Dogecoin itself is not exactly known to be a coin associated with a bunch of guys in suits and black frame glasses that you typically see at a Bitcoin conference, but rather, well, I think they wear suits and stuff too. I'm not trying to diss them, but you know, they have funny things, wow, and funny memes and stuff like that. So that could also be another reason for all the joke coins or joke assets, meta coins, whatever you want to call them. But so far to me, just the existence of all the joke tokens has been a lot of fun and been worth it so far. One person said, "Yeah, that's just a big joke. There's no value in all that." And my response was, "Well, jokes have a lot of value, so why not?"
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think what I would say to that is that Dogecoin itself was actually started as a joke. It wasn't intended to become, you know, the massive Goliath that it is today. And I think it was a really good place for Dogecoin to start. Is from that foundation of initially being a joke, because you know, it's humbling. It puts you in a place where it's very hard to be serious, and it's very hard to be it's very hard to get too worked up about stuff. And I think it's actually a big part of Dogecoin's success is not only has it started from something so small and become what it is today, but you know, the fact that it's gone from a joke is also illustrative of how powerful the community is. It started as a joke, and it's become something so much more than that.
Okay, so let's go, since we're talking about that whole aspect. So what do you think about the Dogecoin marketing? You know, with the whole thing to the moon and the pictures of the dog, you know, flying to the moon. Do you think that creates an unrealistic expectation of getting rich, and the idea that if everyone buys in, you'll have much funds and wow, and, you know, we're all going to go to the moon together, and you know, the whole typical altcoin kind of, well, it's not typical. Well, it is basically typical altcoin marketing, where, you know, our coin is good, buy it, and you'll get really rich. Do you think that that's true with Dogecoin too, with the whole to the moon thing, or what do you think?
Well, so one aspect of it is that I could be wrong, but I think the whole to the moon thing was somewhat borrowed from Bitcoin. That was actually something that was kind of paraded about a lot very early on in the days of Bitcoin. I certainly think Dogecoin has really taken it to heart and made it its slogan, for better or for worse, whatever you think of that idea. But personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think a lot of the success of Dogecoin has been spurred on from you know, the two separate and opposing forces that affect Dogecoin. You know, the fact that it started as a joke, combined with the fact that it has aspirations for the moon. You know, having started as a joke, it helps it to stay grounded, silly, and fun, and you know, people remember where it came from. But that doesn't mean that they can't be optimistic and hopeful about where they want to go and where they want to take the currency. So, you know, reaching the moon isn't something that you do as a pessimist. It's something that is a goal that you reach for, and that you put in a lot of work and a lot of hope to actually reach. The quote that JFK said was, "We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think the people that view Dogecoin as a get-rich-quick scheme have come and gone in the community. I think we're a lot of them at certain points in the game, and I think that they were shaken out by both the community's attitude towards them and the actual events that have happened over the last 9 months. So I think there's certainly still greed in the various communities and the various altcoins. But for Dogecoin, I think a lot of it is genuine. I don't think anyone is really truly in it to make such money and to use it as a get-rich-quick scheme. A lot of people just pour money into it because they think it's fun, and who knows whether or not Dogecoin will become a really big, seriously successful currency. But oh dear, the light's turned off. But
That's cool. That's okay. Hey, maybe that's because you were talking about the moon landing, because maybe that never really happened. Are you sure that there really were people on the moon already? I mean, maybe it was just all on TV, and since you were talking about it, they've now turned the lights off behind you because to make sure that you are telling the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, you bring up some good points. I mean, on the other hand, I don't have a lot of personal contact with anyone that's in the Doge Party community, so I can't say. My only impression is from online interaction, so I have never been to a Dogecoin event or met anyone that considers themselves part of the community. So I can't online. And actually, I wasn't even attracted to Doge. I wasn't attracted to Dogecoin until Doge Party, because I thought that was such a funny idea to do it. And at the beginning, I thought, wow, that is so ridiculous. It's great. Why counterparty on Doge Party? It's brilliant. It's the funniest, weirdest combination, but it makes total sense. And now we can start. Could bring up a few of these technical questions because I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, I know Dogecoin is pretty fast, and I know the transaction fees are really cheap, and I know that Counterparty is really slow, and it's kind of expensive if you think about it to do stuff on there. Because I tried to play around with it, but not only was it kind of expensive, it was kind of frustrating. Much frustrating because it took forever. It didn't always work. And okay, Doge Party isn't perfect at the moment, but I can say that it does work faster when it's working. And is it true? Is Dogecoin really faster, and does that really help Doge Party be faster? And are the transactions really a lot cheaper? And does it make it cheaper to do business in the Doge Party infrastructure?
Well, so I mean, a big part of what you're paying for on Counterparty is you're paying for the security and for the guarantees that the Bitcoin network provides you. Whether or not that's worth it depends on who you actually are and what your goals are. But certainly being faster and cheaper is a huge advantage for us, in my view. I think not having to pay the transaction fees nearly as much, not having to wait anywhere near as long for the block times is a huge advantage for Doge Party versus Counterparty. I think it really matters because the kind of worst case scenario that you're looking at with the Dogecoin network, if you have a late block, you can be waiting anywhere up to like 10 minutes or so for a block to arrive in like a nightmare scenario where just the whole network is just taking forever to confirm a block. And I think that kind of slowdown happens like less than once a day, something like that, but it can happen. Whereas a similar situation on the Bitcoin network is an absolute nightmare. You're talking about an hour's wait. If we assume it's 6 confirmations, you're looking at 6 minutes versus an hour. But to make it slightly more fair, you can say it's 10 minutes versus an hour. So even in that kind of a situation, that's a huge disadvantage for Counterparty. But we have a lot of respect for for the platform and for what they've been able to do on Bitcoin. And so I think it really just comes down to different use cases. If you absolutely need like the security and the guarantees that Bitcoin provides, it can be a very, very good platform to build on. But you can get like 99% of the same benefits out of the Dogecoin network. It's very fast, it's very secure. The hash rate is, much lower, but the fact remains that, especially after the implementation of auxiliary proof of work, that an attack on the Dogecoin network is basically unfeasible. I don't see a 51% against Dogecoin happening anytime soon. So it has pretty much the same benefits that the Bitcoin network has in that regard.
BitcoinTalk.org is the main Bitcoin discussion forum for tech support, mining, development, and economics. Bitcoin Talk helped bring Bitcoin to life by connecting people with similar goals and showcasing great ideas for all to see. But forums aren't for everybody. Bitcoin Talk Show brings the discussion from the boring world of a text-based forum to the exciting and approachable world of a live interactive video hangout. Every Wednesday afternoon, join me, Derek J, on the World Crypto Network as a rotating set of expert hosts take your calls about anything Bitcoin. Ask a question, make a comment, or take control and share your latest project with the world. Watch past episodes at bitcointalkshow.com and get interactive with our live weekly show by calling 1-708-23-COINS, Skype Bitcoin Talk Show, or tweet at BTC Talk. Bring your great ideas, and we'll see you next week on the World Crypto Network.
So what about blockchain bloat, and what about the health of the Dogecoin blockchain as these meta coins or meta tokens or whatever you want to call them are being created and the decentralized exchange starts and there's a lot of transactions? Okay, let's say, so I made, I don't remember what the maximum is, 999 million or 999 billion, whatever the maximum amount was of Viacoin and all the other, and most of the other tokens too. So then I can make a lot of small transactions. And what if one day there was a lot of trading in the, let's just say there's a scenario, there's one day when there's a lot of trading on the decentralized exchange and some of these tokens are really popular, and the way the decentralized exchange works, if no one has ever used one, you can also trade anything for anything that's on there. So any token that's been created. So I've got hot dog. Someone gave me some hot dog. I don't know. I think I've got a few thousand of those. And so I could trade hot dog for XDoge, or free for all for coinage, or shitcoin for Doge, or whatever. So Doge and XDP is going to be on there for sure. Plus, theoretically, all the tokens could be made in any pair. And I was just thinking, okay, if that gets really hectic, is that going to really slow down the other transactions on the Doge chain, or is that going to have zero effect, or what do you guys think?
So if we assume in that scenario that we have like 100 users that are very heavily using the exchange on a day like that, and that they're very heavily trading, we could potentially see a peak of like 800 transactions per hour, perhaps higher. I mean, if we want to just really throw it out there and say 10,000 transactions an hour, the way I see it is that the Dogecoin network can scale much further than where it currently is right now. And blockchain bloat could become a concern if Dogeparty usage starts to like outstrip Dogecoin usage itself. But I don't see us ever being a bigger problem than the hundreds of gambling sites for Dogecoin that are already out there, because we would have to be much more popular than even Dogecoin itself to have enough of an impact to negatively affect the coin. And I think were that to actually happen, we'd be very happy to work with the Dogecoin developers towards a solution. So it wouldn't be a problem for very long.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Okay, moving on. What about some of the practical uses for all these tokens? So over at Counterparty, I can name a few of the main, or I think the main ones.
Yeah.
Tatiana Coin, Let's Talk Bitcoin Coin, Swarm, Storage,
Yeah.
and I think there's also a funny one called Meat, but it doesn't have anything to do with meat. It's something like it's one of those game token things that a lot of people have been talking about Dogeparty maybe being associated with gaming a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think those are the main ones. At least those are the main ones that have some kind of trading volume, and I think some of those are on other exchanges that are centralized exchanges, and yeah, they have companies or behind them, so they're legit, let's say. Unlike Dogeparty, right now I've got Hot Dog and Shitcoin. I mean, I don't know. There could be. I have to look at the info. Maybe there is a company behind them, but there is an announced thread for the Shitcoin token. I did find that, so that was quite entertaining. But
yeah.
And I think for a few other ones there have been some announcement threads too. So they're legit.
Yeah.
But are these examples, Let's Talk Bitcoin, Tatiana Coin, Storage, Swarm, etc. You could do the same thing on the Dogeparty infrastructure, and theoretically it would be faster and a little bit easier. For example, Swarm, they've got all this voting going on. That would make a lot more sense to me on something a little faster and a little more lightweight, sending around your votes.
Yeah.
And, I think the way that it works is that if I have Swarm, then every so often you just get as a dividend sent to your account, vote number 1, vote number 2, or something like that.
Yeah.
And but you have to have, if you really wanted to vote, then I'd have to keep my Counterparty wallet open, and I'd have to be connected to the internet, and I'd have to wait for the block to go through and to make 100% sure that my vote was really sent. I think, I haven't done it.
I think you can still receive tokens without your wallet being open. That would be about the only.
You could receive them, but if I wanted to use it as a voting system, then I would if I wanted to make sure my vote was counted, I think that I would have to wait until the whole thing went through. But I'm not like I said, I'm just kind of guessing. But I just wanted to say that I could see that also as a use on Dogeparty. If you wanted to have some kind of vote and you could track it on the blockchain transparently and say, okay, if you want to vote for option 1, send it to this address, and if you want to vote for option 2, send it to this address, and then everyone could double check it on the blockchain which address got the most votes. That would be a pretty simple way to do a vote, right?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, I think we're very much in the early days of Dogeparty and cryptocurrency in general. So the different uses for assets are still being discovered, and people are still experimenting. I think it would certainly be a very valid use case for Dogeparty to be used for a voting system like that. There are certainly usability concerns that I think are going to be one of the most interesting aspects of cryptocurrency over the next couple of years. Is we're really going to start to see people start to focus on usability and what that means to them and how they actually implement it for the various applications that ride on the blockchains. I think voting and politics and a lot of the other stuff is going to be a very interesting area, and I think making that usable for people is going to be very interesting. I could see there being like a desktop client or something that can run in the background and sort of help validate and push votes for you. We'll just sort of have to see how that plays out. But the figure that we always quote is 10 times faster and 100 times cheaper.
I like that.
For Dogeparty.
100 times faster, 10 times cheaper.
No, 10 times faster and 100 times cheaper.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I would actually, if I had to choose and that was the trade-off, I would actually pick 100 times faster and 10 times cheaper, because I think of the two advantages, being faster is the more important one. Cost certainly matters, but depending on what you're trying to do, cost also isn't a factor for a lot of people. Nevertheless, I think it's, you can use assets for hosting events, you can use them just for fun, you can use them as alternative currencies like Xbox Live points, and there are lots of uses we haven't really thought of yet. There's a sticky post in the XDP subreddit that talks about different uses for assets. I think there's a lot of really creative stuff in there. But I think one of the other advantages of Dogeparty, besides being fast and cheap, is just the community behind it. I think is a lot more friendly. As much as I love Bitcoin and the community that surrounds it, there's a little bit of elitism that happens there, and they're not always that friendly to newcomers. There are certainly exceptions. The Bitcoin guys are great folk, but in general, I find the Dogecoin community to be a lot more welcoming. So, to me, that alone actually stands as an advantage of Dogeparty.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's fair
Sure.
enough. All right. And so, who is behind Dogeparty? Is there some company that's getting massive amounts of profit from creating this cool infrastructure with the face of a funny dog on it, or what's the deal with that? Because development takes hours of looking at a screen at ones and zeros, and your eyes start to bleed and stuff like that. So how does that working? Who gets paid? How is the development paid?
So we have like a big shadowy organization called the Umbrella Corporation. Oh. That's unnerving.
Oh, that was great timing. That was awesome.
That was excellent timing. Truthfully, none of us really get paid, or at least I don't get paid. The key thing about Dogeparty and the development model that it follows is that it was largely created by the people developing it for the purposes of using it for their own projects. So really, the only reward that is technically involved is, in creating the system, they have the ability to use the same tools and things like that everyone else does. So I think that's the big motivator behind it. As far as who's behind it, in a more generic sense, there's two companies, Humint and Social Giver, and they're both fairly heavily involved in it. I'm not actually associated with either. The motivation for Dogeparty isn't really monetary, so that kind of helps prevent it from needing ulterior motives. When you're not doing stuff for the money, then money becomes much less of a concern, and you can kind of just.
So you mean this whole burn thing that happened is not what has exploded the price? So at the beginning of the burn, I think Dogecoin price was around 25 satoshis.
Yeah.
And now it's at over 100 satoshis after the burn. So some people have said it's due to the burn. I don't know if there's a relation necessarily. The burn is over now. But I want to believe that nobody's doing it for monetary. No, I'm just joking. But it's really interesting to hear. But some people say, "Oh yeah, but the whole burn thing, and that's pumping the price of Dogecoin, and they probably all bought in, and there's all kinds of funny conspiracy theories I don't know if anyone has, really written a big post about it or anything. I think people are just throwing ideas around that the whole burn is what started to make the price rise again. But I don't know if it's just by chance or if there's a real correlation.
Yeah. I mean, I would love for us to take the blame for that. I would love to be like, yeah, it was us. Yay us. We pushed the price to 100 satoshis. I mean, the real truth of it is it's really hard to tell what kind of market forces are actually involved. Um, as far as the actual Dogeparty developers themselves, the official word is that basically everyone involved sunk almost all of their Dogecoins into Dogeparty itself and into the burn period when they had the chance. So I think they mostly have XDP instead of Dogecoin itself, and XDP's value is actually slightly lower than when the burn began, as far as I'm aware. So I don't really think anyone got rich off it. I could be wrong. Personally, I currently have about 1.5 million Dogecoins myself. I think that's the full extent of my holdings, and I've been sort of just buying them up as the price has been going on, and I don't really see a reason to stop doing that. I have like 98 XDP, and I don't really hold any other cryptocurrencies. So I think
What? You hold XTP and Doge and not a lot of Bitcoin?
I was holding Bitcoin, and I'm not totally sure whether I will be in the future or not. I do buy Bitcoin to give out to people. I run a cryptocurrency club at my college, so I'm certainly still very fond of Bitcoin. But as far as a currency to actually hold and invest in, I'm not actually that excited about Bitcoin. I'm not confident that Dogecoin is like a great investment, but I don't really put money into Dogecoin because I think it's a great investment. I put money into Dogecoin because, if I put in some money and it helps the currency succeed and it takes off and we're all using a currency with a dog's face on it in 2050, then that's money very well spent.
Okay, that's great. That's the whole. It's a continuation of the kind of joke thing and the not taking yourself too seriously,
I mean,
etc., or humbling. I think you said earlier, humbling effect. Yeah, maybe.
yeah. So I mean, I think I've put in about something like $1,600 if you count all the ASICs and graphics cards and actual investment into Dogecoin itself. I'll probably put in.
You're a Dogecoin millionaire.
I've got 1.5 million, but I also bought a graphics card and 2 more ASICs, during some of the phases of excitement. But overall, I think it's one of the most interesting communities that I've seen in terms of who's involved in it, in terms of general engagement, in terms of how charitable it is, and to me it's worth investing in something like that, even if there's no promise of money. And I think that's actually something that's been very healthy to see as well within the community, has been that while there are a lot of people getting very excited about the price, and I'm sure there are probably a lot of people that, especially with like day trading experience, that have probably made a lot of money off Dogecoin. I think the general attitude within the community is that making money off other people, kind of screwing others to get ahead, isn't really a very healthy way of dealing with things. And every time that someone's like really excited about the price and like we're going to the moon, guys, there's always like a couple of voices of reason that chime in and say, hey, that's great, but let's not mislead anyone here. And I think that's been something that's very healthy to see, is sort of that level of grounding within the community. So
yeah, that sounds good. All right, so anything else you want to tell us about Dogeparty? You have some, secret tips for some cool assets we have to look out for, or I don't know. Okay, upcoming at some point the Decentralized Exchange will be opened. I think that'll be a big deal whenever it does open. What else is in the future, or what can you tell us without giving us too high expectations, at least about the Dogeparty client and the exchange, etc.
So as far as like personally, the thing I guess I'd like to plug is there's a 1 Bitcoin bounty donated by myself to whoever can get core issues with the wallet sorted out. I'm very interested in seeing that get resolved as quickly as possible. So if you know Python, or you're just interested in kind of poking around, if you do manage to solve the issues, there's 4 specific issues on GitHub. There's going to be a post going up on XDP and Dogecoin and a couple of other subreddits later today, putting out the details of that. But if you happen to know Python, or you happen to know enough to potentially solve the issue, definitely take a look at that. As far as just future development, I think for the most part we're going to be following along with Counterparty for quite a while, until we get to the point where we're popular enough and we're advanced enough to be able to really stand on our own. And I think that's going to be the point where we see the most interesting stuff occurring. Getting the decentralized exchange online will be a really big step. The wallet issues that we have right now have to get solved before we can really touch the decentralized exchange, just because it's crucial to us that we get those just completely sorted before we move forward. But I can see there being a lot of exciting stuff down the road after we get all that hammered out. I think we'll probably have our own unique features starting to come through the pipeline once we've branched off from Counterparty. I think it'll be still very symbiotic. I can tell that the relations between the Counterparty developers and the Dogeparty developers is very healthy at the moment, and I don't think either side wants to see that change. But I think eventually we'll be sort of coming onto our own with unique features that people will be very excited for. So it's very early days for all aspects of the project. And it's really just kind of a time will tell situation at the moment.
All right, sounds great. So if anyone wants to get a Dogeparty wallet, all you got to do is go to dogeparty.io. It's free, and then you can get started. There's also a test net, so if you're too afraid to make a real wallet, you can just go to the test net and fool around, and that's pretty cool. So check it out, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and we'll do our best to answer them. I think the Twitter is just at Dogeparty, right? Or is it Dogeparty official? What's the Twitter?
I think the Twitter for Dogeparty is the Dogeparty, at the Dogeparty. My personal Twitter is GnomeThrower, which is also my handle on IRC. So people are welcome to reach out and contact me if they have any questions.
I see what you mean, definitely. There was something else that we wanted to talk about. Hold on.
We could talk about fees. Those are very exciting.
Oh yeah, right. So yeah, exactly. So, all right. There's going to be a decentralized exchange, and for people that have never used one or never heard of one, we always know of an exchange. So an exchange like Bitstamp or BTCE or Cryptsy or Bitfinex or Bittrex or whatever ones, those are centralized.
Yeah.
And please describe for us how the decentralized exchange works and who gets the fees. And how does that all work?
So the decentralized exchange is something that we're looking at launching relatively soon. There are some remaining wallet issues that we're working on getting sorted out that take priority, and we're really aiming to get solved before we can go ahead and launch the DEX. The way that it works is it uses, I couldn't really speak to the technical nature of it, but just like a centralized exchange, people submit buy and sell orders for what they're interested in buying or selling. They tell us, the costs associated with whatever they're trying to do, and the DEX matches different people and sort of facilitates the trades to all happen on the blockchain itself. So in that way, it takes out the sort of central party out of the equation and allows people to just freely trade tokens. There are still fees involved, simply just by virtue of it riding on the Dogecoin blockchain. There are transmission fees that we have to worry about, and there are other just associated things that we need to do. And one of the things that Dogeparty does that I think is kind of unique is that we actually submit extra fees to miners that are mining our blocks. And the reasons for that are twofold. One of them is that submitting extra fees helps a little bit with priority, but not very much. And then the other is that sustaining Dogecoin via fees is sort of the way we eventually see Dogecoin evolving is eventually it'll be sustained partially through fees, unlike Bitcoin, which is going to be maintained almost entirely through fees. So it's sort of our way of contributing to both the community and to the continued survival of the coin, is to submit those extra fees. So the decentralized exchange is no exception to that. Every transaction and every message that's sent using the DEX will be subject to those fees, although they are still very small. And so in that way it does have fees. But as far as the just straight cut, 0.5% or larger fees based on volume and things like that, there are no fees of that kind. So
all the fees go to the Dogecoin network. There's no company behind the decentralized exchange.
Yeah, that's correct. So I mean the part of the point is to remove any kind of single point of failure from the system and allow people to just exchange freely and fairly. There's no one to take a cut, and the only transaction fees that are used go straight to the Dogecoin network and are fairly distributed amongst the miners.
And I think another aspect of the decentralized exchange is that if I want to transact, then I know the other party has the tokens or the coin that I'm supposed to get. So I can't put an order for selling 10,000 Dogecoins unless I have 10,000 Dogecoin in my wallet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little technical, but you see what I mean? I mean, as far as I know, as far as the whole counterparty thing, I don't know if I could put maybe we have to go back and do a little technical. I think that if I don't have, if I've got 5,000 hot dog token in my wallet, I can't put a sell order for 10,000 hot dog token. I think it just doesn't accept the sell order. There's a little window that pops up and it says, hey, you don't have enough hot dog token. That's not going to work. I just mean that, with the central exchange, we had Mt. Gox and all that, and, we hope they have the tokens, the crypto coins that they say they have, but really they're just ones and zeros on the screen until you try to withdraw, and until you actually possess the private key, you don't know if they really have them or not, theoretically. That's the problem with the centralized exchange, as opposed to the decentral one. I think it's much more difficult to spoof having funds in the decentralized exchange, as far as I understand the technical aspects of it. But we can also go back, and I can try to find out if that's exactly true what I'm saying. But I think it's true.
Yeah. So I mean, never say never, because we are dealing with open source
sure.
software.
Someone is probably right now. Someone is trying to figure out a way to do exactly what I was saying. How can I, make a sell order in the counterparty system without having the funds in my wallet and have the order go through? But I was just thinking, that's going to be. I thought that was part of the point of the whole decentral system, that you can't spoof orders like that.
Yeah. I think it's possible that there's probably some sort of bug that would allow you to spoof an order, but most crucially, I think the way that the system works would inherently prevent it from actually going through. If someone actually managed to get an order to match that, I think it would just bounce because the funds aren't there, and it just kind of knows better. So any bugs that happen like that would be purely cosmetic. I think it's extremely unlikely that
you could make the order, but it would just bounce and it would never get filled, basically.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see it happening cosmetically, but as far as it actually having any effect on anyone, I think it would just bounce. I could see someone modifying the software to accept invalid orders like that, but I don't think it actually would allow them to match it with anyone. Otherwise the regular Dogeparty accounts are a great way to get information. We're really focusing on community outreach now, and we're trying our best to be available and be seen as available by the community wherever possible. So.
Thanks for talking to us today, Benjamin, and talk to you soon.
Thank you.